Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you and good morning. In human history, seldom has there been a meeting quite like this one. A voluntary gathering of people that are so devoted, so loyal, so fearless, so involved, so self-reliant, so determined, so patriotic. A body composed of all ages, all political parties, all religions, and all races. Not just those of us here in this room here this morning, but the 4 million NRA members you represent, and all those out there right now watching online, and all of the gun owners who are going to see this speech through a viral internet distribution that's eventually going to reach hundreds of thousands of viewers. Millions and millions of watchful eyes, listening ears, and feet on the ground, with the brains to comprehend and the courage to act. Millions and millions of hearts beating as one, with a lifeblood that sustains liberty. Kindred souls bound by a love, a reverence, an awe, an obsession, even addiction for human freedom. That describes one body of people. It describes you, the National Rifle Association of America, and the millions and millions of Americans who share our love of constitutional freedom. Together, we are the human engine of freedom, fueled by 141 years of generation after generation, passing the torch only to the worthy, to the alert, the vigilant, and the brave. You've been doing that this morning. I've seen your sons, I've seen your daughters that you've brought here. History's toughest tests have revealed that we, the members of the NRA, represent the very best of America's character and strength. We stand for what America stands for. And that's why when we fight, we win. And when it comes to defending freedom, no one fights harder, longer, and stronger than we do. And fight we must. For America needs us now more than ever. As we gather together as one in the most dangerous times in American history, never has American freedom been so disregarded, denigrated, diminished, and often destroyed. All over this nation, people feel it in their hearts that something has gone terribly wrong in our country. In almost every way you look at it, in almost every respect, their American freedom is in some state of decline. Our right to speak, our right to assemble, our right to practice our religion, our right to seek the kind of health care we want for our families, the economic freedom to earn and spend and save, to own our own homes, to buy the kind of food we want to feed our children, and to raise and discipline our kids. Even the simple right to fly the American flag. The increasing collapse of American freedom in America is becoming staggering. By almost every measure, we are less free today than we were a decade ago. Not our issues, some may say. Oh, but they are. Less freedom anywhere threatens all freedoms everywhere. And don't think our guns aren't on their list. Is it any wonder then that a recent CNN poll found that only 15% of Americans say they trust their government. They don't trust them because they don't trust us with freedom. We don't trust them because government itself cannot be trusted. Barack Obama won't tell you that. No politician in any party will tell you that, and neither will the media. They'll all keep spoon-feeding us idle-minded slogans in hopes that we'll ignore the truth. And the truth is this: a complete collapse of political leadership in this country has led to an ever-increasing collapse of American freedom as we sit here this morning, in ways our forefathers could never have conjured in their worst nightmares. The right to be heard, not if President Obama's around. The Secret Service, in the name of safety, can now expand zones to surround the president or anyone else they are assigned to protect. That zone can be deployed anywhere in the country. They can make that zone as wide as they want, essentially ensuring that you aren't seen and you can't be heard. Congress passed that by a wide margin. Members of both parties overwhelmingly voted for it, and President Obama signed it into law last month. They don't care about us or what we think or what we say, because they are the elites, the political class, the powerful. They are better than we are, and theirs are the only opinions that matter. Well, Mr. President, you probably aren't going to like this, but in this election year, the NRA is going to be heard loud and clear. When we're done speaking out, sir, gun owners will have made the difference in key precincts in battleground states all over the heartland of this country. And you'll have us to blame for your defeat in November. Freedom to run a company, whether it's a large corporation or your family business. Not if President Obama's around. The barrage of increasing regulations on American businesses has become so convoluted and contradictory that the cost of adhering to them is distressing our national economy. Through generations of Americans, since the founding of our nation, perhaps no business has defined our way of American life more than the family farm. A lot of us grew up on a family farm and spent our childhood helping to pick the fruit and vegetables, driving the family tractor, or milking the cows, learning the daily costs of survival. Now, the Department of Labor has proposed underage labor investigations on family farms. Imagine some federal agents out in the field with a pair of binoculars and a clipboard, watching a teenager helping mom get the eggs and out there documenting the abuse. If that's what our government is coming to, it spells the beginning of the end of free enterprise in America and the beginning of the end of American family values. Our family farms, our stores and companies and homes, that's where we teach our children lifelong lessons of work and discipline and personal responsibility. And now some government agency's going to have us arrested for taking our kids to the office and asking them to do some chores around the house? It's one thing to undermine free enterprise in the American economy, but it's quite another for the president and his agents to go after our right to responsibly raise our children. The government has no business in that freedom. And it's not just here at home where freedom is being diminished. Even the brave men and women serving abroad in America's armed forces have been undermined. President Obama's Secretary of Defense, Leon Panetta, visited Afghanistan a few weeks ago. Before entering a building to hear the Secretary speak, hundreds of Marines, United States Marines, were ordered to leave their rifles outside. I know there are a lot of current and former members of the military watching and listening to this speech right now. Imagine serving your nation on foreign soil, in harm's way, and being ordered to disarm. Leave your gun outside? That's what happened to hundreds of our own Marines. They were told it was out of respect for a few unarmed Afghan soldiers who were present. Excuse me, respect for Afghan soldiers? What about our own men and women serving in combat? What about respect for them? The truth is, they don't trust Marines, just like they don't trust most Americans. They don't even tell us the truth about the dangerous times in which we live. More and more people believe it's no longer a matter of if, but when our nation is violently attacked again by terrorists. The government feeds us stories from time to time about how they caught this shoe bomber or thwarted a plot to hijack that airplane. But they hide the truth we all know in our gut, that there are surely more terrorist cells operating right now in the U.S., that the collapsed border with Mexico has become a superhighway, not just for hundreds of thousands of violent drug cartel members, but for untold number of terrorists that are bent on destroying us. Tonight, on our televisions, we're going to see more unarmed Syrians, innocent Syrians, thirsting for freedom, being slaughtered by the thousands by their own government. While our government works in the shadows to support a United Nations treaty that could effectively ban or severely restrict civilian ownership of firearms worldwide. Yes, the Obama crowd is conspiring with the world's dirty-handed thug governments to destroy our Second Amendment. Now, I've been around long enough to know the UN has little regard for our Constitution and none at all for our Second Amendment. But I never thought I'd see the day when an American president would tolerate a proposal that would literally gut one of our most fundamental freedoms. So I went to New York and I testified before the UN. You talk about an out-of-body experience, that's it. No, it is, seriously. You're sitting there and you're looking out and you're getting ready to testify, and there's representatives from Libya and Russia and China and North Korea, Syria, Iran, all those great bastions of freedom sitting there looking at you. I looked them all straight in the eye, and I told them about America, and I told them about our freedom, and that they had no authority whatsoever to mess with it. No way, no how. But you won't hear those words from President Obama, because he wants to be part of that club of governments. Truth is, if you had a national referendum and asked Americans to vote on whether to hold fast to the Second Amendment or throw the United Nations building and all the liars and thieves inside it onto the trash heap of history, those global elitists and all their friends in the White House would be dining on garbage. We will never sacrifice our freedom upon the altar of international acceptance, and we will never surrender our guns. By the time I finish this speech, 2 Americans will be slain. 6 women will be raped. 27 of us will be robbed, and 50 more will be beaten. That's the harsh reality we face, all of us, every single day. But the media, they don't care. Everyday victims aren't celebrities. They don't draw ratings, don't draw sponsors. But sensational reporting from Florida does. In the aftermath of one of Florida's many daily tragedies, my phone has been ringing off the hook. Now, the National Rifle Association will not comment on any story without a full understanding and a thorough understanding of all the facts. But if I were to answer a call from Diane Sawyer or Chris Matthews or Brian Williams or Rachel Maddow, let me tell you right now what I'd ask them. Where's your outrage? Where's your outrage about Willie Brewer III from Akron, Ohio? Or Derek Linkhorn from Decatur, Georgia? Or Daryl Adams from New York City? Or what about Antonio Duff? Just this past Monday afternoon, about the same time I got here into town, he was killed and murdered. And he's not the only young man murdered in this city this past week. You reporters, you don't know their names. You don't care about those people. You manufacture controversy for ratings. You don't care about the truth. And the truth is the national news media in this country is a national disgrace. And you all know it, and so do Americans throughout the country. And it's getting worse every single day. And your dishonesty, duplicity, and moral irresponsibility is directly contributing to the collapse of American freedom in our country. Because Americans cannot trust the media any more than they can trust the political class. People are anticipating dangerous times, and they're responding in the only sensible, logical way possible. They're buying guns. In record numbers, Americans throughout this country, all over the heartland, are turning to the Second Amendment. And America's women, they are leading the way. Today, gun ownership among women is at an all-time high. Nearly 30 million American women now own guns. And they know what all of us have known for a long time. The more women who buy and own and shoot guns, the safer and the better off we'll all be. Now, you know it. The elitists who hate our firearms freedom, they would deny that. But even they know it's true. Think about it. Everything the elites care about, what do? They surround it with guns. They care about their money, so they surround their banks with armed guards. American airports, office buildings, power plants, courthouses, even sports stadiums. They're all protected by armed security. Even that gun-hating mayor, Michael Bloomberg, surrounds himself with armed security. And the elites of New York City, they all have their guns. 35,000 permits have been issued there to the celebrities, the rich, and the connected. That's less than 0.5% of the population of that city. You and I, or people just like us in New York City, we couldn't get one. Neither can 99.5% of New York City residents left unarmed and defenseless against the repeat offenders let loose by Mayor Bloomberg's Let's Make a Deal criminal justice system. All of the elites protect themselves and everything they care about with their own guns and with armed security. But the truth is, they would deny us that same right because we're not part of that elite club. We're not worthy of that same level of freedom. For the elites, freedom is selective. It's for them. It's not for us. They are special. They are wealthy. They are powerful. They count. We don't. Americans have had enough of that double standard. And that's why, while freedom's been in decline in so many ways, Americans are relying on the one freedom more than any other and above all others like never before: the right to own a gun. In the face of all the dishonesty, corruption, hypocrisy, Americans are facing the reality that they're on their own. 20 years ago, 65 million Americans owned a firearm. Today, 100 million Americans own firearms, an all-time high. And the numbers keep going up. And it's driving the media, the gun-hating media, and all those gun-hating politicians nuts. What they don't get, what their elitist minds can't grasp, is that when faced with diminishing freedom, Americans have found in the Second Amendment the means to meet their most basic needs of survival. Our founding fathers enshrined the Second Amendment. In the Second Amendment, our founding fathers enshrined, they put it there right into our Constitution for one purpose: survival. Survival of each citizen. Survival of a nation. More Americans today than ever before understand the principle of our Second Amendment, the freedom it gives to them as individuals to be responsible for your own safety, protection, and your survival. Americans throughout this country are suspect of criminal attack. They've witnessed the slaughter of tyrants, and they know that terrorists are lurking and plotting to murder us. These aren't just distant fears, they're coming realities, gathering and approaching as certain as dark storm clouds. And we know that our government lies and shrouds the truth about the very real threats to our lives and our way of life. We know that they are concealing the fact right now that an army of hundreds of thousands of Los Zetas, Sinaloa cartel, LFM, Juarez cartel, and other violent gangs have already invaded our nation from the south and infiltrated every single American city. We know our government knows how vulnerable we are to terrorist attack that could freeze our transportation systems, black out our cities, shut down the distribution of fuel and food, and lead to perhaps months of unprecedented elimination of social order. We know, all of us here today, that those threats are real. And yet, right now, there's a reporter out there writing that I'm crazy and that NRA is paranoid. And you smile because you know that's true. That reporter should think of what it must felt like on that fateful September day in the World Trade Center. Think about the reality those innocent Americans were forced to face: the fire, the darkness, the confusion, the fear, and the chaos. Think about Samantha Koenig, the 18-year-old coffee barista in Anchorage, Alaska. On February 1st, she vanished, abducted at gunpoint. Imagine the fear she must have felt, the horror visited upon her. Authorities found her a month later, brutally murdered and dumped into a lake. Think, you sanctimonious reporter, of the drug gangs embedded in this very city right now, in neighborhoods you don't dare enter because you know it's not safe. Better and safer to stay in this room, isn't it? Can any reporter or government official promise that the horrors of terrorists and tyrants and gangs and violent thugs will never again be forced upon the innocent? Go ahead, write about our paranoia, as if we should just close our eyes and buy some candles and duct tape and extra water. You are irresponsible, duplicitous, and you are dangerously dishonest. One by one, 100 million of us have already decided that the first thing we'll do if and when the lights go out and it goes dark, get my family, get my gun. Americans are not just buying guns and ammo in record numbers. They're joining the National Rifle Association, writing checks of support, and signing on to this great cause of defending freedom. I've been leading our association now for 21 years. I can't count how many times the media predicted the demise and the death of the NRA. We've lost political clout and credibility, they'd go out and report, claiming our strength would soon fade into oblivion. Well, I got news for the news media. We're still here, and we aren't going anywhere, except to the polls on Election Day. The Second Amendment has never been more relevant as it is today. When all is said and done, we may have nothing left but our gun rights, but that's the one right that gives us a fighting chance to reclaim freedoms lost and preserve all of our rights and all of our freedom. Barack Obama hobnobs at cocktail parties and denigrates people who cling to their religion and guns. That's his America. We bow our heads at night, pray for our families, and keep our firearms close. That is our America. We are the millions of Americans who have found faith in the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution. We are the millions who understand there is no greater freedom than to own a firearm to protect yourself, your family, your community, and your nation. We are the millions of Americans who worry about the future of our country and say to President Obama and all the political and media elites, get out of our kitchens, get out of our homes, get out of our cars, get out of our wallets, get out of our churches. We don't want you in our hospitals and doctors' offices. Get your hands off our children, our lives, and our way of life. And we sure don't want you anywhere ever near our guns. And we've seen enough during your first term, Mr. President, to know that we sure don't want you back for a second one. We live in the most dangerous of times, and as more and more Americans turn to the Second Amendment, the NRA has never been more vital to our nation. Every American gun owner must join our cause to defend this great freedom. And every NRA member must do everything possible to keep our association strong. If it were not for America, there would be no freedom in the world. If it were not for the Second Amendment, there would be no freedom in America. And if it were not for the NRA, there would be no Second Amendment. That is our legacy. But a legacy that only endures if we all remain vigilant in the preservation of freedom for future generations. Even now, in this most dangerous time, we face the most dangerous election of all of our lifetimes. All of our Second Amendment liberty, all of the rights we've worked so hard to defend, all of what we know is good and right about America, all of it could be lost if Barack Obama gets reelected. This is an all-or-nothing election, and we must be all in. Every single one of us. No one sits this one out. Every time freedom is at risk, it is fought for and preserved by the work and the wallets and the will of millions of NRA members, gun owners, and patriots. In the face of great peril, we always stand up. We always, as members of the NRA, stand our ground together. So stand up right now. You tell me, will you defend freedom with all your heart and with all your might? Come on, let them hear you over at the White House, all the way to the White House. Will we fight to preserve our liberty and keep our nation strong and safe and free? Will we save America and save our great freedoms? Will we save the Second Amendment from a second Obama White House? This is our moment, our destiny, our place in the history of preserving American liberty. This is our time, our election to rise up and fight for all of our rights. It's all or nothing. We will fight to defend our nation because we must, and we will prevail. We will prevail and stand for who we truly are. We are Americans. We are patriots. We are the NRA. And in this election, by God, we are all in. Thank you very much. And each of us, let's fight for freedom every single day. Thank you very much. Thank you.